I'm excited about this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast. I have a special guest with me today. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is making it out of the AI noise. One of the things that's like we have all seen it nonstop with our inboxes. People are now able to use AI, full on automation to write emails nonstop. So the problem is we're kind of doing the same thing as like recruiters, both on the sales side and the candidate side. So how do you like break out of the noise? How do you do something different? So I have my guest, Bethany Stachenfeld, who is the CEO of SendSpark, to talk about how you can use video to really up your game, change the game, and stand out from the thousands of other emails that every single manager is getting. So welcome to the podcast.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
So real quick, before we get started, we normally talk about how you got into recruiting, but let's talk about how you got into the video world.
Yeah. So I was in my past life, I was doing a lot of email automation, email outreach for two different startups. And it was at VidGrid, that's the last startup I was at before starting SendSpark. We realized that video was just such a powerful way to connect. And like you said, stand out, cut through the noise, show that there's humans behind the business that are trying to make real connections. But the problem was when it came to using video, it just wasn't like scalable in a personal way. You could take one video, send it to everyone, or you could record individual ones that took a lot of time using other platforms. But as an email automation person, I'm like, oh, shouldn't there be a way where you can take one video and personalize different attributes of the video to different people to be able to send it an email, like, automation, different workflows. So, that led me and my co-founder, Brandon Escalante, to start SunSpark and build out just a better way for people to use video to connect at scale.
And I think that you kind of put the nail on the head. I remember when I first started using video, like you're probably going to laugh at this. Like I'd make a YouTube video and I could personalize it, like create it, put it on the YouTube thing, make it like a private link, and then put that in the email. And by the time I like got done doing that, and the 15 times like I made a mistake, I was probably like 30, 40 minutes into making a personalized video. And I just realized at the end of the day, I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah. Sure. That's like literally what we're doing. We're doing like, well, it wasn't YouTube, but we were using VidGrid and then have also used different platforms. But then we're like literally creating landing pages for each so people could book a meeting and it looked kind of professional. And then we're also making custom thumbnails. And my co-founder, I want to say this was possibly before Figma. So he was like using Sketch to like make like it just was way too long and there are all these different moving pieces. So yeah. Hence SenseMark.
And since then, like, I, some of the challenges I've seen with it when it comes to recruiting is just like both on the client side and the candidate side is just getting in the door, like just getting the message read. And, I always like harp on this podcast about this template, this email template that I somehow get 5 times a day from recruiters. And I have no clue where my resume is at since I haven't had one in maybe a decade. And it looks like the same template that I used back when I first started recruiting back in 2005, 2006. Like things haven't changed for a lot of recruiters. So, and the problem is there's so much noise. Most of the time with most of my candidates, and the client side, it's at least on the client side, it's now way more touches than it's ever been. On the candidate side, it might be the sixth email that comes through. So you can really step up the game by doing video. And like one of the questions I want to ask you, since you are the video expert, when in the process does video actually work?
Yeah, great question. Well, I'll also say that one of the problems of using an email template that really feels like an email template, if you're in the candidate's mind, is the candidate's thinking, okay, I might apply for this job. It's going to be me against like 6,000 applicants. Like people know that the market is really tough right now. And so when you're like invited to apply, but you feel like, well, I'm just going to spend this time applying and be lost in a sea, like why even take the time to do it? And even if I do, I like write a good application because they feel like a number and they feel like they're going to be a number. So I think it comes down to, whether we're talking about email or video, the goal is how do you make the person you're reaching out to feel like your message is intended for them and they should take the time to apply and put their whole selves into the application because there's been a little bit more thought. And that doesn't mean that you have to take 30 minutes and create their individual personalized thing, but it's just about figuring out, well, what is really going to make them feel seen and heard and that they were properly targeted to do that. And I think video can be really powerful, just as a way to like show rather than tell, like show there's a human on the other side and make them feel special. And I don't, whether that's the first touch or the second touch or it's email or LinkedIn, like it doesn't really matter. It kind of depends on the rest of the process. But I think that's the goal, is making people feel seen and heard.
Awesome. And when it comes to like, when you're really thinking about using video in like a sales sequence, like, should you start off like your first message with a video, or should it be like something like a little later on down the sequence?
Typically, I recommend people use it as the second touch. The reason for that is if you're reaching out cold, you really have to keep deliverability in mind. Um, People who are really good with deliverability and like optimizing sequences and like know what they're doing, they use video in the first touch. It works great. But if you're ever like, I don't really know what I'm doing, I'm just trusting my email automation software to like make this work. I just be like, dude, first email, no links, no images. Like, don't put a logo on your signature. Don't use a picture, just nothing. Get in the primary inbox. And then once you're in the primary inbox, a video as a second touch is going to help you. Like, that's where you're going to see the most engagement, but it's extra safe because you're already in the inbox.
Okay.
So yeah.
Real quick. So you're talking about like making sure that the video is added in the marketing sequence.
Yeah.
How like this is kind of, maybe we're going to talk a little bit about AI here, but how do you get like a list of, your top 100 clients that you want to work with and you want to do recruiting for? You have your email marketing sequence put together, and most of us have all that. How do you interject a video into that?
Oh yeah. Well, my shameless pitch for for SendSpark. I mean, we make it really easy to send the videos out in the sequence, so it doesn't matter what platform you use. We integrate with nearly all of them, and if we don't integrate with yours, just say it, and I'm sure we can integrate with it within like a week. But with SendSpark, what you can do is you can create one video and then leave different placeholders for like first name, job title, whatever you want to personalize based on, either in the video, like the actual what you're saying with AI, or just in the landing page or other content. So you could create that and then you just choose the platform that you want to share it in. And whether it's, Apollo or Instantly Outreach, whatever platform you use, will just give you a little snippet so that you can embed the video in your sequence. And then the same way you're personalizing other attributes in the email, like first name, company name, etc., that video will use the same contact information and you'll get it. So it works super seamlessly.
Okay, so real quick, like for the listeners also trying to like understand this. So I can embed a video into my marketing sequence with like Instantly and all these other email sequence platforms, and I can like sit there and say like, uh, you know, Jim Bob, this like job is amazing for you, or like we do amazing stuff like recruiting in your space, but you can like use AI to.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So the way it would work is you actually record the video using the placeholder term watermelon right now. Has really good mouth movement, so that's what we're using. So you would record and be like, "Hi, watermelon. This job's great for you." Blah blah blah. And then when you send it to everyone, instead of hearing watermelon, they'd hear their own name.
that's awesome. It's a good thing they don't hear, "Hey, watermelon." But, you know, that is I didn't even think about that. That is a great way to like, almost like personalization at scale without you working and doing 15 videos per hour and then figuring out how to add it to your marketing sequence.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. And actually, so you can say the first name. And then one other thing that we did is, like, if you look at like a Loom video or like one of the standard videos going on, it's like a bubble, a camera bubble over a screen.
Yeah.
So what we can also do, so we have your camera bubble that's like your high watermelon, high Bethany video, and then we can put that over any public website as if you're scrolling through it. So what you could do is even take you talking and put it over like the literal job description. And you could be like, "Hey, Ben, I'm looking for someone for this job," and it's scrolling through the job. "I think you'd be a really good fit because you've experienced XYZ, something that applies to the whole group of people you're reaching out to, or to the company," right? You could be like, "Hey, I know you're hiring for this role, and we know a lot of candidates that could be a good fit." So you're literally showing that job posting in the video, and then that makes it feel like super relevant.
But
Good.
and one more time for the listeners, like I'm not recording with that job video. I just have that job video as a background that's automatically added in here.
Yeah. So you just take that one video and then you'd upload the list of contacts, the link to the job description, which, I'm sure you could get as a CSV form and generate
Wow.
all. Yeah.
So and like, how long does it take to like do this?
To set up the campaign. Oh, well, it takes very little time to set it up because you literally just like do a couple things and upload your list. I will say it takes about an hour to generate 100 videos right now. I think we can make that time a little faster, but so that's the one thing to know is if you're reaching out to like 100 people, it takes an hour to process. But in that time, like you can be going out to lunch or doing something else.
Oh, okay. I'm, not gonna lie. I think I'm gonna check this out once we're done with this podcast. I feel like I'm sitting on a gold mine by not utilizing like the AI tools.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's one of those things when you see it, you're like, oh, everyone should be using it, but most people aren't yet. So, chance to get ahead of the curve.
So, okay, so this is something that if you're listening when this podcast goes live, do you think everybody's going to be like starting to use this kind of technology soon, or is it like going to be like kind of like if you're doing it this year, you're still ahead of the curve?
Well, I think everyone is, but where we're taking the platform is trying to help you personalize on more things. Like one existential crisis, or I don't know if crisis is the right word, but like one thing that we've really dug into is what is personalization and what is relevance. And I think that that's not going anywhere because the goal of this isn't really to like trick someone into thinking that you said their name. It's really to show them the right content at the right time in a way that's really easily digestible. It's just better communication. So right now, the main ways we're personalizing are based on the first name and the website URL, but I'd like to be able to personalize more parts of the content based on more things. So it's just like a better world. It's almost like, how when you go to TikTok, you're like, oh, all of these videos are really targeted towards me. Like, how do we make sure that that's how your emails feel? Like, oh, all of this content is targeted towards me. It's relevant for me. This is exactly what I need to see. This helps me answer the decision I was trying to make, and that's really the goal. So I think that the world's moving that direction, but it's gonna get, like, just better and better and better, and I think people are gonna love it. Like, it's not, like, opposite of spammy, it's targeted communication.
And like, and I know this is probably in the future, but how do you even like utilize AI to create like a targeted thing, or is it just like, are you guys able to plug into the massive amount of data sets that there is on every single person out there?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we're either plugging into, like, general AI. I mean, I would say, like, we're also using a lot of AI tools too. So there's, like, general like, we use, like, ChatGPT for certain things. We have a video email script writer. We're going directly to ChatGPT. But then for some of the AI stuff we have built in, like, we have camera filters built in to, like, touch up your appearance, which is like, kinda cool because on video, like, you're like, "Oh, I don't really wanna wear make I just would wanna look good." So we're like, we didn't build our own camera filters, we're using Deep AR, which has really great tech, and so we're able to plug into it. So I think as more AI stuff gets developed, like, we're able to just plug into what's out there, what other people are building for business and roll it into SendSpark to give you, like, our goal is not to be an AI platform, it's to be a communication platform, and we just wanna wrap up everything you need.
So if you want a good laugh, I try to stay off of video
Okay.
until I've had a shower.
Oh,
And
yeah.
most of the time, I do a lunchtime workout, so I typically don't touch anything video before lunch. So are you saying that I can now do videos before lunch?
Exactly, like, that's the goal. You should be able to wake up and just turn it on and, like, feel good. It's pretty subtle, like, it's similar to Zoom, where you're like, you don't even notice that you look good till you use Google Meet, and you're like, "Oh god." Yeah, like, little things like that, and just the way we think about developing as well is, like, what are friction points that people have that we can solve with AI? So, like, a great friction point is you not wanting to shower or you not wanting to record until you've showered. Well, if we can fix that with camera filters, we're now doubling the time of day you could be using SenseSpark. So that's how we're like thinking about it from a product perspective. And then we're just using whatever tech we can find.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't even realize that. Yeah, because I'm totally like after lunch is when I do videos, except for like on TikTok where I cannot figure this goes into probably like showing my age now, unfortunately. I can't figure out how to turn off a filter on TikTok. I have this like this glow filter that I just cannot get rid of no matter what I do.
And how hard have you tried to turn it off?
I now mostly just like upload videos to Instagram and I
Oh,
have it like I use an automation software so it automatically goes to TikTok now.
that's sorry.
Just so I don't have to go on TikTok.
It's like a scary place. Like I get so hooked on it. We'll post videos TikTok. I was like posted from my computer 'Cause I'm like, I can't lose an hour to TikTok right now. Like, it's okay.
Ah,
I'm just gonna post and close my eyes and like let my
that is
co-founder reply to
that
comments.
is exactly why I use like an automation tool to go from like anything I post on a reel on Instagram, it automatically goes to like YouTube Shorts and TikTok. Just so because every time I went to go upload on TikTok, I'm like 30 minutes later, I'm like, God dang it.
Exactly. To defend it.
And I'm like, and I get like 25 views on my video. And I'm like, I just lost 30 minutes of time. That's recruiting time. Well, what do you see? What do you see with the future of video and artificial intelligence within the sales cycle?
I think it really comes down to figuring out what information people really need to see at the right time, and then being able to generate that and send it to them. And that's high level, but like an example of that is like, let's say, um, you've been talking to a customer for a long time or like a prospect for a long time. They like kind of ghosted, but now like they're on the website and you see that they visited certain pages like automatically, right? Then taking that information from previous conversations, current activity, I think it's going to be possible to generate a video that can kind of guess what they're trying to figure out right now, provide them exactly that information and send it all automatically. And so if you think about that, that's just better for everyone. It's gonna save you time, like doing research, manually recording, whatever, it's all automated. It's gonna save them time because they're trying to figure something out. And now instead of like making them schedule a meeting that they're gonna have to wait for, or sending a lot of material that they're gonna have to sift through, you're just able to figure out exactly what they're trying to figure out and convey to them really quickly and send it at scale. So you kind of get these like very personalized, asynchronous buying experiences that are really efficient on the company side and really relevant and helpful on the buyer side.
Okay, and that's this is let me take a step back. One of the things about the recruiting world, outside of the rest of the sales and the marketing world, most of the time we're probably a decade or two behind when it comes to cool SaaS, cool technology, and cool things. So you're saying that we could potentially, in the short time future, if a company goes that we've interacted with, goes to our website, looks at something, we can automatically set up a automation tool that includes video to like almost help land the sale.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can kinda do it I mean, you could do that right now. Like, I was just talking to someone that uses Warmly to identify, like, warm visitors on their website, and then they use HubSpot to set up some automation, and then they're automatically generating the videos in SendSpark and sending it out. So you can do it right now, you're just kinda putting together pieces. I think it's a little bit clunky, and we're working on having more direct integrations with tools to make it more seamless. But, yeah, like, you can totally set that up. Right now, it's just not, like, totally done for you, but I think the future is, like, everyone's just doing that because it's normal, and you can be more creative about what's said in the video. Like, right now, you would record one and you have one placeholder, but I think we could have more placeholders, more dynamic content, even written with LLMs and
That's
generated for
phenomenal.
you.
Is there any like other cool like AI technology sales tools that us recruiters probably should know about but don't?
Um, I mean, well, I would say, like, Warmly is great just in terms of, like, getting high intent people to reach out to, because I think that's, like, half the puzzle. Like, one part of the puzzle is, like, communicating really well using, like, video and well-written content, but another part is just knowing, like, the signals of when to reach out, and Warmly does that well. So you can see, like, people are on your website or they're, like, taking certain actions, and I think that's important because one of the challenges with email, like, it's great because you're getting the right like customer persona, like ideally the right contact information. They're going to see your message because it's in their inbox. But the big question is timing. Like, are you hitting them at the right time? Is it a little bit like maybe they're doing this right now? So, like, the question is, how do you get the intent? And I think that's when like Warmly could be really helpful. Um, I don't know if there's any other ones that stand out right now, but I'm sure
Well,
there's more.
and for the listeners, I'll have the links to both SendSpark and Warmly in the show notes, so you could check that out. My mind's kind of blown that that could be an automation tool, but that's also probably just me living in my own little recruiting bubble. So, before we jump to the next part of the podcast, is there anything else that you would love to share about video prospecting?
One thing I guess I'll just say is we talked a lot about like AI and automation, and I think that's really important for prospecting because with prospecting, a lot of it really is a numbers game. But I think there's also a time and a place where like you do want to do a personalized video, and you know, you do. So I would just say the way to split that is like if you're kind of doing mass outreach or you're personalizing based on like a group level, like actions people took like ICP, persona, things like that, that's when the AI personalization is really valuable because you're not personalizing off the individual, you're personalizing based on the list. And so it's super scalable. But then I'd also say like the time to use more personalized video could just be like if you're already talking to someone, they have questions and you want to address them and like make them feel really special. Like I don't want people to be like, oh, I'm against actually recording videos. I think that's really valuable. You just have to be efficient with your time.
So, well, want to jump over to the next part of the podcast. We call this like the quick fire side of the house. So, and we'll kind of reword this for sales and prospecting. So, but for a recruiter that's just getting started in this industry, like it's 2024, with everything that you know about sales and prospecting because of what you do in the video space and
Mhm.
how many videos you've seen and kind of like the success numbers, what advice would you give to a brand new salesperson or a recruiter that's just getting started?
Um, my advice would be to do the things that don't scale first. It's not I mean, and it's not like unique wisdom, but I think when you hear about all this like AI and potential and et cetera, like it feels really magical at your fingertips, but I try to perfect it on like an individual basis and then figure out what you're doing that's working and then make that scale. Um, and I even do that like with videos, like I'll make 10 personalized videos before I make one for automation because you just hear yourself like speaking to a real person, you're going to say different things than writing to a group. So just, do everything manually before you do it.
And what, and the same question, but for say us old dogs that have been around 5, 10, 15 years that probably aren't using video like we should. Like any advice to us?
Mm, When it comes to video, I would say I think the hard part about adopting video if you've like not used it for a long time, or just the hard part about adopting anything if you haven't done it for a long time is like you have a system that works. So I try to figure out how to like make it fun for you. Maybe use video when to make it fun. I would do the opposite of what makes it scary. And I think what's scary is making a video and sending it out to people you don't know. So I'd make some videos and send it out to people that you do know, like clients you've worked with for a long time, internal, like, team members, like, friends, like, start kind of at, like, a less scary level, and then people be like, "Oh, it's so cool," and you'll, like, feel better, and you kinda get the hang of it, and then when you're sending it out to people you don't know, you just, like you already know what you're doing.
Awesome. And has there been a book that has had a huge impact on your own personal career?
Um, okay, so a lot, like, I read a lot, but I'm gonna just tell you, I'm reading, right now, I'm reading Elon Musk's biography, and I just think it's, like, it's an amazing read for anyone. Like, there's a lot of things you see and you're like, "Oh, this is amazing, I wanna do it," and then with Elon Musk, there's also a lot of things where like, "This is very different from what I wanna do," but it just I mean, I think it's worth reading just to kinda see like, alright, it obviously worked on some level, not perfectly, but to see the way he's doing things, he's thinking about things, people respond to that. I think that is, like, influenced me a little bit, in how I run SendSpark, and not necessarily that I'm emulating him, but I'm also picking a lot of things, be like, "This is where I'm gonna draw a different line," but I think you gotta see what other people who are really successful do to know how to
Awesome.
do things yourself.
And I feel like you're a little bit on the forefront, but how do you think like AI is going to impact the future of recruiting as a whole?
I mean, my hope is that it helps people really think about what relevant means. I think when people like right now, people are like, oh, the AI's gonna be so bad because there's gonna be so much noise. But I think it's actually gonna be the opposite. I think we're gonna like really start thinking about, oh, what's relevant? Like what do people really care about? What are they really trying to see? And instead of like personalizing off superficial things like where you went to school or which maybe actually is more relevant for recruiting, but personalizing off superficial things, it's gonna be like, what are they really trying to do and how do we communicate that well? So I think that I feel like it just makes us, like, level up a little bit.
Oh, I love that. And kind of like jumping down towards, when it comes to you and your own personal success, and you got a SaaS company that's been growing pretty well from what I've seen on the outside. What do you think has been a huge proponent of your own personal success?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much I'm gonna say, like, so much of it is, like, luck too. Um, but, I would just say, like, there's a lot of stuff that, like, isn't fun, like, a lot of stuff that's just, like, yeah, you're just kinda doing the basics until you get it to work, and, like, just trying to, like, respond to customer emails quickly and, like, be on top of things and help people. And I think if you just kind of like, there's so much noise, but if you just kind of focus on doing the basics like really well, it adds up. And you kind of look back and you're like, wow, we learned so much. We did so much. This is what was good use of our time versus not. But like, you don't know that at the time. So just try to do, like, I just feel like I've always, myself and my co-founder, we try to really not take shortcuts and to just do a lot of things right. And I think that helped us build a really long foundation, a really strong foundation. And then as we've added more on top of it, we've had a good foundation to like grow from versus like taking shortcuts earlier on that maybe would have left us hanging in the current state
Okay.
of future.
And this is going to be a two-part question. So I'll ask the first part, but like everything that you know now, the ups and downs that you've experienced, if you could sit down and have a cup of coffee with yourself shortly after school as you're jumping into your career, what advice would you tell yourself?
Ask more questions and better questions. Just ask questions all the time. People answer questions. Like you'd be surprised what you can ask and people answer. And I feel like I used to be scared of like asking and now I actually just like last weekend or a couple weeks ago I went out with like a friend and we're like, "Hey, let's just like talk to random people and ask questions." And it's like weird because when you think of it that way, it feels so weird to do. But like in a business setting and just in a social setting, the more you ask, like people answer and you can learn so much.
Yeah, I mean, good questions, great answers. When it, and same question, but like going back to January of 2019, everything that you've learned with SendSpark, if you could have a conversation with yourself that week, what would you tell yourself?
Um, I think that I would have well, the truth is I would have told myself to really focus um on customers that were willing to pay like a lot of money earlier on. I think that we used to spend a lot of time on people that weren't willing to pay and that like is indicative of like how valuable your product is. And I think as a founder, it's really tempting to be like, oh, we'll just build this, or oh, we want people to use it, or oh, they're using it. But like the problem is people might use it because it's free and then, like but they're not really your customers, or even worse, people are not using it because it's not valuable to them and it's free, and then you're, like, optimizing for the wrong thing. So I would've, I think that, like, freemium, things like that are a really great way to scale the company. Like, when you know what's working and you know who your core customer is, the value you're providing, and you know that really well, like, free stuff is a great way to get more customers, but you shouldn't start with that. And I think a lot of founders, and I definitely was in this boat, think that you should start with it because, like, you haven't proved it out or built it yet. But I think the fact that people would or wouldn't be willing to pay is a really important signal. And if you give it away for free thinking like, "Oh, we're trying to prove out this concept," like, you're giving yourself, false positive feedback, and I think that took a little bit of time to figure out early on, so probably could have saved, like, honestly, 2 years.
Well, before I let you go, is there anything else that you would love to share with the listeners?
Mm, I just say, like, try to use more video, it's different. Might not work at first, but, like, either just cold calling, either just emails, nothing works at first, just do it, play with it, and you won't regret it.
Awesome. Well, Bethany, I just want to say thank you for coming on. I am a SendSpark user, and I feel like based on this conversation, there's a lot I'm not utilizing, but it is so nice to be able to like cut a extremely quick video and get it over to somebody that I'm having a conversation with, and it really just like cuts a lot of the noise out. But I'm excited that really just to dig more into the AI side of the house, and I really feel like one of the challenges of 2024 is just the email noise. And how do you get somebody to respond? And I think video is going to be one of the game changers for 2024.
Amazing. Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me, this was great, I really enjoyed the conversation.
Awesome. And for the listeners, I cannot wait for you guys to crush this. Let's make 2024 your best year yet. All right. Thank you.